The Justice for Families video crew is on the road again. We're here in sunny Phoenix, Arizona to expose Attorney General Tom Horne's kidnap-for-profit scheme that he runs in state courts in collusion with Child Protective Services. It's human trafficking of children for profit. Senator John McCain and Sheriff Joe Arpaio are both native to Arizona and considered patriots. Yet they too have been corrupted by the judiciary and turn a blind eye to Arizona's kidnap-for-profit racketeering scheme.
No, who has jurisdiction over clerks of the court when they, unlawfully removed court documents from the docket?
This is Arizona grandmother Sara Johnson, who unlawfully lost her 3 grandsons to the state as a result of false allegations of abuse by Child Protective Services, malicious prosecution by the Attorney General, public defenders that refuse to submit her evidence, and judges who are trained to operate their courts as criminal enterprises.
For the past 3 years, I've been fighting false allegations such as medical neglect against my first son, Isaiah, who was taken May 2009. After they took him to the neurologist in June of 2009, where Dr. Chapman ruled out medical neglect.
Sarah's evidence proving all of the allegations by CPS as false is posted on the Justice for Families website. I'm Zed McLarnon, Director of Forensics and Media for Justice for Families. And we chose Carla and Sarah's case to demonstrate that Child Protective Services use false allegations of abuse. Police departments break into houses to snatch children without a warrant or pickup order. Attorney generals prosecute parents they know to be innocent, and judges suppress evidence and manipulate the court records, all to take into custody as many children as possible. What intrigued me about this case is the fact that the judges in Superior Court, once they had appointed Sara a public defender, claimed that she was no longer a party to the case. Imagine a mother being maliciously prosecuted to terminate her parental custody, not a party to the case. Why did they do this? So that they could refuse to give her any court documents, including the allegations against her.
I've had multiple attorneys that refused to put my exculpatory evidence on the record.
And when she tried to fire her public defenders, the judge wouldn't let her and kept on appointing new public defenders. Why? Because the public defenders would not submit her exculpatory evidence. Public defenders that refuse to present their client's evidence is a fundamental tactic of state-sanctioned kidnapping. I made note that this very same tactic was used in the state-sanctioned kidnapping of Sylvia Huzuris' son in our video, Kidnapping in Maryland. This is happening all over the country, not just to Sylvia. I haven't run into a case where a public defender has actually pleaded innocent for his client. All they care about is getting a plea bargain and handling more and more caseloads. Another issue in this case is the fact that they were suppressing Sarah's exculpatory evidence. Dr. Chapman's report, notably. Sarah's evidence proving all of the allegations by CPS as false is posted on the Justice for Families website.
We're standing outside the Child Protective Services office of Maricopa County, commonly what's known as CPS. And just beyond the doors over there is where we were called to a special meeting regarding my grandson, Isaiah. This is where the fraud and the false allegations started. While we were being detained by the Phoenix Police Department at this meeting, other Phoenix police officers were sent to our home to unlawfully take my grandson, Isaiah, without a search warrant or a pickup order. And they threatened Sarah's older sister, Erica, with arrest and threatened to break into our home if she didn't willfully give up Isaiah to CPS.
There were people at the front door who continued to bang on it and tell me to open the door. They eventually identified themselves as the police department. I told them that I was not going to open the door until I find out what's going on with my mother. And they continued to bang. They continued to tell me if I did not open the door, they were going to arrest me. The police had absolutely no paperwork, no pickup order, no warrant, nothing. They just continued to threaten me with arrest. Well, I eventually had to give up my nephew to CPS and the police department because there were other children in the house, and I was fearful that I was going to be arrested.
This is where my daughter went to court for 2.5 years to defend herself against the false allegations of medical neglect made by CPS. Inside this very courthouse, Judge Christopher Curry unlawfully terminated her parental rights to her first 2 sons based on CPS false allegations and in defiance of the fact that he knew that there was a doctor's report. Dr. Kevin Chapman, Isaiah's neurologist since he was born, in Dr. Chapman's report, it stated clearly, the facts were there that Isaiah was not having seizures, he was not medically neglected. Judge Christopher Curry proceeded to go ahead and continue to repeat CPS's false allegations as fact so that he could go ahead and take her 3rd son, Josiah.
So there's a real catch-22 here. Your public defenders won't submit your exculpatory evidence, and then the judge won't let you fire them.
This case is now before a new judge, Brian K. Ishikawa. He continues to suppress Dr. Chapman's report and other exculpatory evidence that proves every allegation by CPS was false and fraud upon the court.
And when Sarah and Carla went to the upper courts, they too wouldn't let them submit motions falsely claiming they were not a party to the case.
This is the Arizona Court of Appeals where my daughter came down to present motions and file documents regarding the unlawful kidnapping of her sons. This is where she was obstructed by the court clerk, Ruth Willingham, who denied my daughter to file her motions with the Court of Appeals, saying that she was not a party to the case. This is where the Arizona Supreme Court justices denied her motion and violated judicial canons because they refused to report the unlawful activity of the lower court judges.
The judges just ignore your motions, no explanation, no legal citations, no pathway to relief.
When my first grandson, Isaiah, was born in March of 2008, we were absolutely ecstatic. He was my first grandson. There was complications at birth, but he was such a joy. And to have CPS come in unjustly and pretend that they were our friends and twisted and turned everything around so that they could take Isaiah. And I'll never forget that day that Rhonda Cash told me that she was taking my grandson because I pissed her off, and that she was going to make sure that I never saw him again.
This outrageous declaration of official misconduct is reflected in the threat made by New Hampshire CPS to Elena Katz, that they were going to destroy her family by unlawfully taking custody of her daughter. And a similar threat made to Sylvia Huzuris that they were going to get rid of her and take their child and take her son.
I mean, how can the system be acting in the best interest of the child? You know, when we have taken pictures of abuse that my grandsons have suffered by foster parents, by the people that they currently live with, I mean, how is that in the best interest of the children? Bruises, scratches, diaper rash, hives.
Feces.
Yeah, filthy, dirty. Yeah, you know, Isaiah's mouth was, Sandy and Charlie didn't brush his teeth for over a year And he's lost all of his teeth. You know, how is that in the best interest of a child?
Mom, they're at the door.
I'm Sergeant Barker with Phoenix Police Department. Is that CPS you're talking to?
Yeah.
Or who is that? Okay. Who is that you're talking with?
I'm talking to Mary Lynn. She said she was sending a caseworker over.
Okay, yeah, I just talked to her.
To check the baby.
Yeah. So what we need to do is, I'm Sergeant Barker, is we have a court order. We need to come here and we...
Let me see the court order.
I don't have it on me right now, but...
I want to see the court order.
Okay. Go ahead and start picking the lock.
No, I want to see... I'm asking you for the court order.
I'm telling you that right now we have a court order.
Well, let me... Can I hear, please? Let me see the court order. I just want to hear what you say. Well, if you have a court order, you should have it with you.
Okay. Well, the Attorney General's office signed a court
Okay,
order.
let me see the court order. To have people tell us that they're going to break in our home is just wrong. This is my home. We are waiting for the CPS.
No, they're not coming to the door. I told you. She's here.
Well, where is she?
She's sitting
Don't
across
touch
the
my
street.
door.
Already did.
Just please, can I hear it either here? I want to talk to the sergeant.
Okay. Well, there was a court order today signed by the Attorney General's office.
Record this.
And what it states is that the CPS, Child Protective Services, is supposed to come here, take custody of the baby, check the baby out to make sure she's okay, or he's okay. And then they're going to go ahead and probably place the baby most likely back with you again. What they're worried about is that he is either under the influence of drugs, or that's what...
We've heard all these different stories, and okay. So do you think that it's appropriate for this gentleman over here to come at us and attack us like that?
Well,
That is not professional. This is our home.
okay.
Okay, now if you have a court order, I want to see a copy of the court order.
Okay.
Every governor, like Arizona's Jan Brewer, is the head of the state's Child Protective Services. They appoint and train sociopaths to use false allegations of abuse and perjury to gain custody of as many children as possible. Every prosecutor, like Attorney General Tom Horne, trains their prosecutors to use fraud and due process violations to take custody of as many children as possible. Every state trains its police departments to break into houses and take custody of children without warrants or pickup orders. And every state trains its judges to operate courts as criminal enterprises where they violate due process, ignore facts and the law to take custody of as many children as possible.
Corrupt judges put my son in a for-profit juvenile detention center to make millions of dollars. My son came out of there and he took a gun and shot himself in the heart.
Sheriff Joe Arpaio, like corrupt sheriffs across the country, will arrest your high school and college-age sons and daughters for smoking marijuana, but he won't arrest CPS workers that commit fraud and perjury to kidnap children. And he won't arrest police officers that storm and break into houses to snatch children from innocent mothers without a warrant or a pickup order. Attorney General Tom Horne certainly won't arrest his prosecutors or judges and clerks that operate courts as criminal enterprises. And Maricopa County State's Attorney Bill Montgomery's office threatened Carla with prosecution rather than arresting and prosecuting the kidnappers of Sara's 3 boys. As you can see from the signs behind me, Arizona is celebrating its 100th year anniversary. It was the last of the mainland states to become a state, but in only 100 years, Arizona has zoomed ahead of many others to become one of the most corrupt states in the nation, kidnapping children for profit to plunder federal funds.
You know, one of her attorneys, Julia Lopez, got promoted to a commissioner. Amy Cromer, a CPS worker, got promoted to a supervisor. Rhonda Cash got promoted. You know, they do such a good job taking these children and breaking up these families and destroying people's lives that they get promoted.
After my daughter Sarah and I exhausted all efforts in 2 superior courts, the Court of Appeals and the Arizona Supreme Court, we came here to the United States District Court, hoping to get justice and relief from the unlawful kidnapping of my grandsons. It is this very courtroom where Magistrate Burns used fraud to unlawfully dismiss our civil rights complaint.
Carla made an appeal of Magistrate Burns' fraudulent ruling to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco. Without looking at the merits of the case, they threatened Carla and Sara to give up the case or face sanctions, both punitive and financial. Dr. Chapman's report should have resolved this case in July of 2009. Yet, in every Arizona court, in U.S. District Court in Phoenix and the Ninth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, not one judge referenced Dr. Chapman's report or any of Sara's exculpatory evidence. 20 state and federal judges obstructed justice and suppressed Sara's exculpatory evidence to kidnap her 3 sons under color of law for profit. This is happening to millions of other families across the country who are being destroyed in state and federal courts that alter their records and operate as criminal enterprises. Arizona Senator John McCain and the other senators and representatives in Congress knowingly fund state and federal courts that operate as criminal enterprises, in which they alter court records to usurp the judicial process and kidnap children for profit. Congress also funds the lawyers in the Department of Justice that are knowingly covering up evidence proving that state and federal courts alter records to kidnap children and overthrow the Constitution. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Lamar Smith and Oversight Committee Chairman Darrell Issa are knowingly committing treason by suppressing evidence that state and federal courts illegally alter court records to usurp the judicial process and deny justice to families such as Sara Johnson's. I supplied ample evidence that state and federal courts alter records to deny justice to every department of the Department of Justice, Attorney General Eric Holder, and President Barack Obama. In response, President Obama appointed Carmen Ortiz as U.S. Attorney in Boston, specifically to cover up the crimes and treason in state and federal courts, covered up by Congress, the Department of Justice, and the President. Vice President Joe Biden has a history of writing unconstitutional anti-family legislation to fund the destruction of the traditional family. When candidate Barack Obama appointed Joe Biden as his running mate, he sent a coded message to every lawyer and judge to continue to fund the destruction of the family through the abuse and divorce industries. As a result, lawyers and law firms were the biggest contributors to the Obama election campaign. The evidence proves President Barack Obama is the kidnapper-in-chief of the largest kidnap-for-profit racketeering scheme in the world. More families such as Carla and Sara Johnson's will be destroyed under the Obama administration than Al-Qaeda ever could. I've been exposing judicial corruption since the mid-1990s. And I know it's a hard concept for people to understand, but every judge, both state and federal, and every lawyer in America knows about state-sanctioned kidnapping and the crimes involved. How many more children and families must be destroyed for money before we stand up and end state-sanctioned kidnapping in America?